The child from the stars. The Mojave stretched before Rhiannon like a sea of broken promises. 17 years as a desert ranger had taught her to respect the harsh landscape, but never to trust it. The setting sun painted the dunes in shades of blood and rust, casting long shadows across the cracked earth as she guided her weathered jeep along the rutted trail. Radio chatter crackled through her dashboard. Another day, another set of coordinates for a routine patrol. Desert people going missing wasn't unusual. Some wandered off course, others came here deliberately to disappear. The Mojave kept their secrets. Base to Ranger Jackson, come in. The voice of her supervisor, Deacon, broke through the static. Rhiannon adjusted her hat and pressed the transmitter. Jackson here. What's up? Got reports of strange lights near the old Sunburst mining complex. Probably just teenagers, but worth checking since you're in the area. She squinted at the horizon. The abandoned mine was a notorious spot for parties, urban explorers, and occasionally the desperate seeking shelter. Copy that. I'll swing by. The jeep groaned as she turned off the main trail, dust billowing behind her like a comet's tail. As she approached the dilapidated facility, something felt different. The air seemed charged, heavier somehow, carrying an electric undertone that made the hair on her arms stand up. The mining complex appeared empty at first glance, rusted equipment scattered around concrete buildings whose windows had long since surrendered to rocks and weather. But as Rhiannon stepped from her vehicle, she noticed fresh tire tracks leading behind the main structure. Hello? She called, one hand resting on her sidearm. Park Ranger. Anyone here? Only the desert wind answered, whistling through the skeletal remains of industrial infrastructure. She followed the tracks, noting their unusual tread pattern, too narrow for standard vehicles, almost like specialized military equipment. The tracks led to a rear entrance, where the heavy metal door stood ajar. Inside, darkness loomed, but Rhiannon caught the distinct scent of ozone and something else, something unfamiliar. Last chance, she called into the shadows. Identify yourself or I'm calling backup. A soft whimper echoed from deep within the facility, unmistakably the sound of a child in distress. Rhiannon's ranger instincts warred with common sense. Children didn't just appear in abandoned desert facilities. But that sound. Pulling out her flashlight, she stepped inside. The beam cut through darkness, revealing corridors lined with debris and abandoned equipment. Following the sound, she navigated deeper into the complex, past empty offices and storage rooms until she reached what appeared to be an old laboratory space. The whimpering grew louder. Hey, she said softly, sweeping her light across the room. It's okay. I'm here to help. In the far corner, huddled beneath an overturned desk, was a small figure. A boy, no older than 8 or 9, with skin so pale it seemed to reflect her flashlight beam. His eyes, when they met hers, were unnaturally bright, a vivid violet that seemed to glow from within. They're coming back, the boy whispered, his voice carrying an odd melodic quality. Please don't let them find me. Rhiannon approached slowly, crouching down to his level. Who's coming back? Are you lost? Where are your parents? The boy stared at her, his head tilting slightly as if assessing her. Mother is far. Very far. She will come, but not soon enough. His fingers clutched something to his chest, an object that pulsed with soft blue light. What's your name? Rhiannon asked, trying to keep her voice calm despite the growing sense that something was very wrong here. Lysander, he said after a long pause, as if retrieving the word from somewhere distant. They call me Subject 7, but Mother named me Lysander. A chill ran down Rhiannon's spine. Who calls you Subject 7? The boy's expression darkened. The men in suits. The ones who took me from the crash. They want to know how I work. Before she could process this, the distant sound of vehicles approaching echoed through the empty corridors. Lysander's eyes widened with fear. "They're coming," he whispered, shrinking further into his hiding place. "They'll take me back to the White Room." Rhiannon's mind raced. Whatever was happening here, a terrified child was involved, and that was enough for her to act. "Come with me," she said, offering her hand. "I'll keep you safe." For a moment, Lysander hesitated, then placed his small hand in hers. His touch sent a jolt through her arm, not painful, but intense, like touching a living electrical current. They moved quickly through the facility, Rhiannon guiding them toward a service exit she'd noticed on her way in. Behind them, footsteps and voices grew louder, professional, coordinated, searching methodically. "This way," she whispered, leading Lysander through a narrow corridor lined with pipes.
The exit door was visible ahead, a rectangle of fading daylight. Just as they reached it, Lysander froze. "Wait," he said, his voice suddenly different, deeper, more resonant. "They're outside too." Rhiannon peered through the small window in the door. Sure enough, black SUVs surrounded the perimeter, men in tactical gear spreading out in search formation. One man stood apart from the others, his suit pristine despite the desert dust, his posture rigid as he barked orders into a radio.
"Director Vane wants the subject secured immediately," the man was saying. "Neutralize any interference." Rhiannon pulled back, heart pounding. "We need another way out." Lysander looked up at her, his strange eyes now swirling with patterns she couldn't comprehend. "I can hide us," he said simply. Before she could question him, he pressed the glowing object in his hands against the wall. Blue light spilled outward, crawling along the surface like liquid lightning, forming symbols that burned themselves into the concrete. "What are you?" Rhiannon began, but her words died as the wall seemed to fold inward, revealing a passage that couldn't possibly exist within the building's architecture. "Hurry," Lysander urged, pulling her toward the impossible opening. "It won't last long." Against every rational instinct, Rhiannon followed him through. The passage sealed behind them, plunging them into darkness except for the soft glow emanating from the boy's strange device. "What was that?" she demanded when she found her voice again. "Who are you, really?" Lysander's eyes dimmed slightly. "I'm not from here," he said simply. "Mother sent me to learn, but our ship crashed. The men found me before I could hide properly." "Your ship," Rhiannon repeated, the implications washing over her. "You're telling me you're not human," he confirmed, watching her reaction carefully. "Mother says humans aren't ready to know about us yet. But I think you're different." The tunnel they stood in seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, its walls shimmering faintly with the same symbols Lysander had created. Rhiannon realized with a start that they were moving, not walking, but being carried forward by some unseen force. "This will take us to safety," Lysander explained, noticing her confusion. "A place they cannot follow." "The men in suits," Rhiannon said, gathering her thoughts. "Who are they?" "They call themselves the Division," he replied. "They hunt things they don't understand. Things like me." Before she could ask more, the tunnel suddenly opened into a vast chamber that defied comprehension. The ceiling stretched hundreds of feet above them, composed of what appeared to be swirling galaxies and nebulae, a living projection of deep space. "What is this place?" Rhiannon whispered, awestruck. "A safe house," Lysander said, stepping forward. "One of many Mother created before she sent me." The chamber was furnished sparsely but comfortably, a simple bed, a table with chairs, shelves lined with objects that seemed to shift when Rhiannon tried to focus on them directly. "We'll be safe here until they stop searching," Lysander continued, placing his glowing device on the table. Up close, Rhiannon could see it resembled a complex geometric shape, its surfaces constantly rearranging themselves. "Your mother," Rhiannon said carefully, watching the boy. "When you say she's far away." "She's beyond the stars you can see," he replied, gesturing toward the cosmic ceiling. "Where the light bends differently. She's searching for me, but the distance is vast." Rhiannon sank into one of the chairs, trying to process everything. Why were you sent here? To learn what? Lysander's expression grew solemn. To understand humans. To decide if you're ready. Ready for what? Contact, he said simply. Mother's people have watched yours for centuries. Some believe humans should be guided. Others think you should be left alone. Some. He hesitated, think you're dangerous and should be contained. A chill ran down Rhiannon's spine. And what do you think? Lysander smiled for the first time, a small, genuine expression that transformed his otherworldly features into something almost childlike. I think humans are complicated. Like you. You're afraid of me, but you helped me anyway. Before Rhiannon could respond, the chamber trembled. Dust fell from the cosmic ceiling as a low rumble shook the ground beneath them. They found us, Lysander whispered, his eyes widening with fear. They have technology they shouldn't have, pieces from our ship. Rhiannon stood, instinctively moving between the boy and the tunnel entrance. What happens if they capture you? They'll take me apart, he said matter-of-factly. To learn how I work. How we all work. The rumbling grew louder, and cracks appeared in the tunnel walls. Lysander grabbed his device, which was now pulsing erratically. We need to keep moving, he said urgently. There's another way out, but it leads deeper. Deeper where? Rhiannon asked, even as she followed him toward the back of the chamber. Into places humans haven't been, Lysander replied, pressing his hand against a seemingly solid wall. Places where reality is thinner. The wall dissolved at his touch, revealing another passage, this one lined with what appeared to be living tissue that pulsed with bioluminescent light. As they stepped through, Rhiannon heard the chamber behind them collapse. There was no going back now. Whatever this child was, whatever truth awaited them deeper in this impossible space, she was committed. Lysander, she said as they moved through the organic corridor, if your mother does find you, what happens then? The boy looked back at her, his violet eyes now filled with stars that matched the chamber they'd left behind. Everything changes, he said simply. For everyone. The corridor twisted before them, leading downward into depths Rhiannon couldn't fathom, while behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew distant but didn't disappear entirely. Whatever awaited them in the depths, one thing was certain, her life as a desert ranger was over. A new journey had begun, one that stretched beyond the stars themselves. Mother of worlds. The living corridor pulsed around them in waves of blue and purple light, each beat feeling like the rhythm of an enormous heart. Rhiannon followed Lysander deeper through the organic passageway, her ranger training useless in this impossible place where the laws of physics seemed optional at best. How much further? She asked, her voice barely audible over the strange humming that emanated from the walls. Lysander's small form glided ahead with uncanny grace. Not far now. The nexus point is just ahead. Nexus point? Where realities overlap, he explained, as though describing something as mundane as a crossroads. Mother built these pathways between dimensions when she first came to study your world. They emerged into a circular chamber where the floor appeared to be liquid yet somehow supported their weight. The ceiling arched high above them, a kaleidoscope of stars and nebulae shifting in patterns that hurt the eyes if observed too closely. Lysander approached a crystalline structure at the center of the chamber. The object resembled a tree made of light, its branches extending upward into infinity while its roots disappeared into the liquid floor. This is a beacon, the boy said, placing his small device against the structure's trunk. It will amplify my signal. Mother will find us now. Rhiannon glanced behind them, still hearing distant echoes of pursuit. And those men from the division? They cannot reach us here unless... Lysander paused, his expression darkening. Unless they've found more technology from our ship. The crash scattered pieces across your desert. As if in answer to their fears, a tremor shook the chamber. Cracks appeared in the walls, leaking a strange luminescent fluid. They're trying to break through, Lysander whispered, his eyes wide with fear. They're using something powerful, something they shouldn't have. Rhiannon assessed their options, her ranger instincts kicking in despite the extraordinary circumstances. If they're coming from behind us, we need to keep moving forward. Is there another way out? Lysander nodded toward a pulsing membrane on the far wall. Through there. But it leads to a place not meant for humans. Well, nothing about today has been meant for humans, Rhiannon replied with grim humor. Lead the way. They crossed the chamber just as the entrance behind them shattered. Through the breach came 3 figures in specialized containment suits, their visors reflecting the chamber's otherworldly light. Subject 7 located, 1 called into a radio. Unknown female accomplice. Request immediate backup. Lysander grabbed Rhiannon's hand, pulling her toward the membrane. Don't breathe when we first cross. The atmosphere will need to adjust. Before she could process this warning, they plunged through the membrane. The sensation was like passing through ice-cold syrup, her whole body momentarily compressed before being released into nothingness. They floated in a vast empty space, no up or down, no walls or floor, just an endless expanse of shifting color. Rhiannon held her breath as instructed, lungs burning as seconds ticked by. Just when she thought she couldn't hold out any longer, a bubble of normalcy formed around them, and breathable air rushed in. Gasping, she turned to Lysander. What is this place? The void between, he replied, his voice sounding different here, more resonant, almost adult. A buffer zone Mother created to travel between worlds undetected. In the distance, luminous pathways crisscrossed like celestial highways, each leading to what appeared to be windows into different realities, some recognizable as Earth-like landscapes, others so alien they defied comprehension. Can they follow us here? Rhiannon asked, watching as the membrane they'd passed through rippled with disturbance. They're trying, Lysander confirmed. But the void rejects unprepared organic matter. Their suits won't protect them for long. As if to confirm his words, one of the suits burst through the membrane, flailing momentarily before its occupant began convulsing, the suit's material disintegrating around him. With a silent scream, the figure imploded, leaving nothing behind.
Rhiannon turned away, sickened. What happened to him? The void consumed him, Lysander said matter-of-factly. This place exists between dimensions. Human bodies aren't designed to withstand it. Then how am I? I'm protecting you, he explained, and Rhiannon noticed for the first time a subtle shimmer surrounding her body. But I can't maintain it forever. We need to reach safety before my energy depletes.
He pointed toward one of the distant pathways, this one glowing brighter than the others. There. That's our destination. They began moving through the void, not quite flying but not walking either, a strange form of directed floating that Rhiannon couldn't have explained if asked. As they traveled, she noticed Lysander growing increasingly transparent, his efforts to protect her clearly taking a toll. Hold on, she urged him. We're almost there. Just as they reached the luminous pathway, the void around them shuddered violently. A massive presence was approaching, not from the direction they'd come, but from somewhere beyond comprehension. Mother, Lysander whispered, his face lighting up with relief. The entity that materialized before them defied description. At first glance, she appeared humanoid, a towering female figure composed of swirling energy and light. But the longer Rhiannon looked, the more complex the being became, with multiple limbs that existed in different dimensions simultaneously, and a face that seemed to contain galaxies within its features. My child, the entity spoke, her voice like music that bypassed the ears and resonated directly in the mind. I have searched across countless realities. Mother, Lysander reached toward her. I crashed. They found me before I could hide. The cosmic being's attention shifted to Rhiannon, and suddenly she felt herself being examined on every level, cellular, atomic, down to the quantum patterns of her consciousness. You protected my son, the entity stated, not a question but an acknowledgement. Yes, Rhiannon managed, overwhelmed by the presence before her. He was in danger. Zeveris, the entity addressed Lysander by what Rhiannon assumed was his true name. Show me what you have learned of these humans. Lysander, or Zeveris, approached his mother, placing his small hand against what might have been her cheek. Energy flowed between them, a silent communion that lasted only moments but seemed to contain lifetimes of information. When they separated, the cosmic being turned again to Rhiannon. You call yourself a protector of your world. A ranger. Yes, Rhiannon confirmed, finding her courage. What are you? Really? In your language, I am Nixera, the entity replied. My people are the Luminar. We are curators of realities. Curators? We observe. We preserve. Sometimes, we intervene when necessary. A chill ran down Rhiannon's spine. Is that why Lysander, Zeveris, was sent to Earth? To determine if intervention is necessary? Nixera's form shifted, contracting slightly as if to appear less intimidating. My son was sent to experience humanity directly. To understand if your species has potential. Potential for what? Ascension, Lysander answered before his mother could. Humans stand at a crossroads. Either you evolve beyond your current limitations, or what? Rhiannon pressed when he didn't continue. Nixera's voice grew somber. Or you destroy yourselves and perhaps other realities in the process. Your species has discovered technologies you are not emotionally mature enough to control. As if to illustrate her point, the void shuddered again. Through the membrane they'd left behind, more division agents were attempting to breach the barrier, using what appeared to be a device of otherworldly design. They have a fragment of our ship's core, Nixera observed. Dangerous in uninitiated hands. The device the agents were using pulsed with increasing intensity, creating fractures across the void that spread like cracks in ice. They'll destroy this junction between realities, Lysander said urgently. Mother, we must stop them. Nixera's form expanded, tendrils of energy extending toward the breach. I will seal the pathway. Wait, Rhiannon interrupted. Those are still people, misguided maybe, but people. There has to be another way. Nixera paused, studying Rhiannon with renewed interest. You would defend those who hunted my child? Who would dissect him to gain knowledge? I'd defend anyone's right not to be obliterated without a chance, Rhiannon countered. That's what being human is about, making harder choices than the easy ones. For a moment, silence fell across the void. Then Nixera spoke again, her tone different, almost respectful. Perhaps this is why Zeveris found value in your kind. Even faced with beings beyond your comprehension, you maintain your principles. The cosmic being turned toward the breach, where the division agents were still struggling to fully penetrate the void. With a gesture, she froze them in place, not killing them but suspending them between moments of time. What will happen to them? Rhiannon asked. I will return them to your world with no memory of this place, Nixera replied. But the technology they have scavenged must be reclaimed. All of it. Lysander approached Rhiannon, his small face solemn. The division has been collecting pieces of our ship for years. They have facilities across your planet where they study what they don't understand. Rhiannon processed this information, thinking of the implications. If they've been reverse engineering alien technology, then they risk catastrophic consequences, Nixera confirmed. Some technologies cannot safely exist in your reality without proper containment. The cosmic being seemed to come to a decision. Rhiannon Jackson of Earth, I offer you a choice. What kind of choice? My son has formed a bond with you. He believes humans have potential worth preserving. I am willing to trust his judgment, but I require assistance. Assistance with what exactly? Rhiannon asked cautiously. To reclaim our scattered technology before it corrupts your world, Nixera explained. In return, I will share knowledge that will help humanity take its next evolutionary step, not weapons or power, but understanding. Lysander's eyes shone with hope. You could help bridge our worlds, Rhiannon. Be the connection between humans and Luminar. Rhiannon looked between them, the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. And if I refuse? Then I will still reclaim our technology, Nixera stated simply. But without a human intermediary, the process may be disruptive to your civilization. Translation, potentially catastrophic for Earth. Rhiannon understood the unspoken implication. What would you need me to do? She asked. Become more than human, Nixera replied. Accept a fragment of Luminar essence to guide you. With it, you could sense our technology, help locate the scattered pieces while maintaining your connection to humanity. Would I still be me? Enhanced, but still yourself, Lysander assured her. Like me, a bridge between worlds. Rhiannon thought of her life before, the lonely patrols, the empty desert nights, the feeling that she was meant for something more than just surviving. This was beyond anything she could have imagined, but somehow it felt right.
If it means protecting my world, she said finally, then I accept. Nixera's form brightened. Then it is decided. The cosmic being extended a luminous tendril toward Rhiannon. As it touched her forehead, knowledge cascaded through her mind, visions of stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, the true nature of reality itself unfolding in patterns she suddenly understood.
When the connection broke, Rhiannon gasped, feeling fundamentally changed yet still herself. Looking down, she saw her skin now contained faint patterns of light that pulsed with her heartbeat. The essence will stabilize within you, Nixera explained. You will develop abilities beyond normal human capacity, but they will manifest gradually. Lysander took Rhiannon's hand, his touch no longer shocking but comfortingly familiar. We'll work together. I'll show you how to control it. The division won't stop looking for you, Rhiannon pointed out. For both of us now. Let them search, Nixera replied with something like amusement in her voice. You will see them long before they see you. The cosmic being began to fade, her form dispersing into the fabric of the void. I must repair the damage done to this junction. Zeveris, you will remain with Rhiannon to complete your mission. When the scattered technology is reclaimed, I will return. As Nixera disappeared, the pathway before them solidified, leading to what appeared to be a desert vista, but not the same one they had left. This landscape was untouched by human development, pristine and ancient. Where does this lead? Rhiannon asked. A safe place to begin, Lysander replied. One of Mother's sanctuaries on Earth, hidden from human detection. Together, they stepped onto the pathway, the void closing behind them as they emerged into the warm desert air. Before them stood a structure unlike any Rhiannon had seen, a building that seemed to be part of the natural landscape yet clearly artificial, its surfaces shifting to blend with the environment. Home, Lysander said simply. For now. Rhiannon looked down at her transformed self, then out at the horizon where the sun was beginning to set. Somewhere out there were pieces of advanced technology that could either doom humanity or help save it. Somewhere out there were people who would stop at nothing to capture what they didn't understand. But for the first time in her life, Rhiannon wasn't alone in her mission. She had found purpose in the strangest of places, in the eyes of a child from beyond the stars and the touch of a cosmic being who had seen the birth of galaxies. Well, she said, squeezing Lysander's hand. I guess this is where the real adventure begins. The boy looked up at her, his violet eyes reflecting the setting sun. Mother says human lives are brief, but they burn so brightly. I think she was right about you. As night fell across the desert, new stars appeared in the sky, stars that Rhiannon now recognized not just as distant suns, but as windows into other realities, other possibilities. And somewhere among them, watching over her son and their new human ally, Nyxera continued her ancient vigil, waiting to see if humanity would rise to meet its cosmic potential or fall back into darkness. For Rhiannon Jackson, former Desert Ranger and newly appointed Guardian of Two Worlds, the choice was clear: she would fight to ensure that humanity's light continued to burn, bright enough to be seen across the universe.